Resilience, that is the main focus on talk of today. This is Chris Gweth. I'm glad to again be here. So we want to talk about this thing called resilience. What exactly is it? I was talking with a group of youth and I was just realizing how uh, important it is right now to have a conversation, and not just that also, but actually to take young people through some experience that will help them to develop and build resilience. I read a research by some institute in the US that was saying only 47% of the youth are able to fall back or bounce back after a failure, even a small one, as not passing an examination paper. And I thought about it and I realized that is really worrying because if you cannot bounce back, if you're able to drop out of school just because you failed mathematics paper the first time, then that is a worrying trend. And looking at the statistics, 47%, that tells you that only 53% will be able to bounce back. And looking at life and having gone through life, you realize how important it is to have the ability to bounce back, irrespective of failure, because actually that's part of life. And so I realized that resilience is one of the key things that we need to talk about. And I want for us to look at an animal that really portrays resilience. I know people have used this for other reasons, including leadership training, but also just for the purpose of us understanding how really life happens. And we want to talk about an eagle that portrays a real uh, expression of resilience. And this is because of how, in spite of the challenges, in spite of the fact that it flies high, it flies above the cloud, it has a sharp eyesight, it targets really well. It also goes through a moment where everything else have to stop, and it has to renew itself. It has to bounce back. It has to gain new strength, new eyesight, new feathers. It has to regain new clothes so that it can be able to function again. This is one skill that our youth are really beginning to struggle with, and one that in my profession as a counselor, I get to meet, especially dealing with adolescents, resilience. And closely connected to that is actually rejection, which is one of the things that we also need to focus on. And now let me just focus on these two for a moment before we dig deep into them in the future, in the future videos. Let's talk about resilience. Why are people not able to bounce back? If I look at it, really, it focuses on three main things that I can talk about. Number one is that life has been served on a silver platter. You know, given looking at in contrast to the earlier generations, where there were a lot of struggle, a lot of scarcity in another areas of life, including food sometimes. People learned to live with little. People learned to be resilient. People learned to hope for tomorrow. But now with uh, growth in economy and growth in many other things, life has been served on silver platter, and it's becoming difficult for these people to gain resilience or to understand that people have to learn to bounce back when failure happens. The second thing I'll attribute to increasing fatherlessness in the society, because ideally and psychologically, fathers are the ones that ushers in their children to the world, figuratively. Now, of course, they're in the world when they're born, but mothers really plays a very important role of helping them become humans. But then fathers introduces them to the realities of the world, the hardships of the world, the issues that really happen out there in the world, and offers that opportunity that they know they can always fall back in case things goes bad. But with the increasing fatherlessness in the community, then these children grow up within and under the loving arm of the mother and never really learn the reality of life. And so when it happens that things are not going according to how it's always been, then they're just not able to imagine that people often bounce back to this. And then, of course, the last one is just being exposed to toughness, toughness that is emotional, that is physical, and that is social. And this only happens if you're able to engage the kids much more. Earlier on, uh, creativity was the order of the day for kids to be able to play and to engage with each other. It was easy to learn, to relate, to fight out there. Not that fighting is good, but really getting disagreement and know how to resolve their own conflicts. Play football and get injured, and learn how that feels. And that's the reality of the day. These days, with the computer games and with people being at home, movies and all that, children are not being exposed to this sort of things, and that is one of the key areas that is contributing to this lack of resilience. So I'm actually inviting us to this conversation because I believe this is an area that needs not just conversation but also practical ways on how to go about this. And I'm just going to ask us again to engage me on the comment below so that you can know what other things do you think contributes to this, and how else are we able to continue supporting our young people. Because I can tell you for a fact, in 10 or 20 years from now, we'll be talking a different story until or unless something happens to change this situation. Let me talk about rejection in the next video so that I don't mix this up, but it closely related to what we've just spoken about, resilience. So let me hear your thoughts, let me hear your patterns, and then we are going to talk about this going forward. See you in the next one.